Paul. Hello, my name is Paul Marks-Jones. I'm the lead partner in the Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Unit. And I just showed you how to say hello, my name is Paul, which I've learned from my colleagues today who are from the SWORD department. They're here to talk about their experiences of being deaf at the university. So I'll hand over to them to introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Dr. Katie Rogers and this is my surname. I'm currently a postdoctoral research fellow funded by the NIHR, and I'm part of SWORD, which is Social Research for Deaf People, and I've worked at the university since 2005. SWORD have a number of research projects and we're a mixed team of deaf people and hearing people and PhD students. I'm co-lead for the research group here at the university. Hi, my name is Dr. Emma Ferguson-Coleman and my surname is this Emma. I've worked at the university since 2010. I'm a research fellow funded by the Alzheimer's Society. Hi, I'm Dr. Celia Hughes. Celia, this is my surname. I've been part of SWORD since 2017. I'm a research associate and I'm also funded by the NIHR for my fellowship.
Okay, we see that you all sign. Could you tell us, do all deaf people sign?
Well, not all deaf people sign. People have varying communication styles and needs. Some become deaf later on in life, for example, and they don't feel the need to learn sign language. Where those that are born deaf, not necessarily all of them will sign as well. They'll have different experiences, and that's because of several different factors. And I won't go into too much details about that. There is various different barriers that stop people from learning sign language, and it's very much influenced by the medical model, and it's only later on in life, in adulthood, that they'll start to learn sign language. In terms of the deaf community, those people that feel connected to the community generally do use sign language as their first preferred form of communication. Hearing people do sign as well. So my children, for example, are called coders, and they feel part of the deaf community. They're children of deaf adults, and they sign, interpreters sign. I've got friends that are hearing, that happen to be hearing, but also use sign language. So sign language isn't just for deaf people.
Okay. So what's it like working at the University of Manchester and being deaf?
My experience, I've been quite lucky. I came to the university in 2010 and SWORD was already established and was already a leading deaf research group. So the groundwork had already been done. My colleagues may have had different experiences. Being in the university, I've had to learn about how to navigate through the environment as a deaf person, but also as an academic. Using a visual language means I do things differently, and I can be seen different by colleagues, but equally I'm the same as them. I'm different because I use a different language and I may have a different lived experience and a learning style is different, but I can achieve my PhD. I can achieve things on par with my hearing colleagues. I'm here at the university to show that actually deaf people can achieve, deaf people can do what they want to do, deaf people can do a PhD, but it's about the learning environment, the space, what we have to navigate, the conversations that we need to have to make sure that I'm able to thrive in the environment. It's not always my responsibility. It should be a shared responsibility as to how to make that experience better for me to be able to learn and share ideas with colleagues and share the research. I think we do add so much value to that. For me, I'm really grateful SWORD was established. So I've recently joined the team in 2017 where everything was already established. There was deaf people there, deaf colleagues there. There was already well established role models within the team as well. So that really did help me. It really was a benefit to me to join an already established team. If somebody said to me 30 years ago, for example, you will work at a university, I'd say you're ridiculous. Absolutely not. I never thought as a deaf person I would be able to achieve a PhD because it just wasn't in my thought process. It wasn't ever an option given to me when growing up. Reading English isn't my first language, so sometimes I need sort of support with that. But other than that, I'm more than capable. There wasn't any role models for me growing up in positions like this. I couldn't see myself in other people. So it's important that SWORD don't just benefit deaf people, we do benefit the wider community, and hearing people in the hearing community and the non-deaf community can see deaf people thriving and achieving big things. So for the last 20 years, I would say it's definitely been an impact. Deaf people don't generally work in academia throughout the UK. There's not many of us. In America, for example, they have a specialist university for deaf people, and some hearing people do work there, but they're well ahead of us in comparison to where we are in the UK. We're still slightly behind. It's not been an easy journey, I won't lie. There has been difficult times and I'm still trudging through the trenches, and I'm hoping that we've laid the ground now for the younger generation to come in. SWORD is unique. You know, there's not many deaf research groups in the UK, so we are really unique.
Great.
Because the University of Manchester have supported us. It's a supportive environment. They see us, they value us, and they recognise that, and that's really important.
Thanks for sharing that. It's really, really interesting and good to know. I know that a lot of disabilities require adjustments throughout the working day. So do you have to make adjustments, and how do your colleagues react? Do they understand why you need these adjustments?
There's several adjustments that I can think of that we need to make in sort of interpreters. We can expand on that. We'll talk about interpreters. Training, making sure that training is accessible and interpreters are booked and these captions are available on any pre-recorded training materials. Making things as visual as possible often helps. And communication with colleagues. You know, if you're booking a meeting, thinking about what you need to think about prior to booking a meeting. Yeah, I agree. I think, for example, a common misconception is that the interpreter is for us as deaf people, but actually the interpreter facilitates communication between me and my hearing colleague. So say if I'm in a meeting, for example, the interpreter is there for hearing people to understand me as much as I need to understand them. It's not just for me. So there's a misconception there around who the interpreter is for. It's for both parties. And if I'm in a meeting, a reasonable adjustment for me is maybe bringing in a note taker, because as a deaf person, using a visual language, hearing person can hear a spoken word and be able to take notes and do that simultaneously using two different modes, whereas sign language, you need to have your eye contact, eye gaze at the person signing, or if I put my head down to write a note, I'm going to miss what's being signed. So having a note taker is another reasonable adjustment. In terms of colleagues understanding that, I think sometimes we just need to remind people, or I need to chase up, or I need to request. So it still comes from me. It's my responsibility. It's on the onus is on me to do that. Interpreters are not always familiar with the language that's used in academia. So yes, they are qualified, but we need good interpreters who are well prepared in advance. So any meeting materials or meeting agendas or training materials needs to be passed to the interpreters well in advance so they can learn the jargon and the information. Also, adaptations. I think we have to be mindful we have so much deaf admin is what we call it. Maybe we go online and we find a training session that's available online. Hearing person can just press a button and go, right, I'm registered, that's it, I've done. But we have to register. Actually, we can't register yet because I need to check if there's an interpreter available. Because in the UK, there are not that many interpreters. There's over 1,000 interpreters in the UK. But within the deaf, how many deaf people need interpreters is growing. So finding interpreters that are available. So I have to ask if I can book an interpreter, try and find an interpreter before I even register on the course, or I may register on the programme, but then say, actually, if I can't get an interpreter, I won't be there. So it would be great if there isn't already an interpreter booked and I can just attend like everybody else. And we're not at that point. We're not at that accessibility phase yet. If I'm in a meeting in Zoom, for example, some people like to watch the captions if an interpreter's not there, and they're auto-generated. I don't know if you've ever seen them. Some of the words come up and I'm thinking, what is that word? Because it follows the phonetic sound-based. So I have to do the extra processing to try and work out, well, what are they saying? Because that's been translated wrongly. But then if I want to contribute, I can't voice for myself. I could contribute in the chat, but I'm not being represented in the right way. It's not me. So there's still things. Think about captions. Don't rely on the auto-generated captions because they often don't work correctly. So if you're talking about deaf people, as in deaf people, the captions will say dead people, like deaf people, because it's sound-based. Deaf and deaf sound the same. So it's really difficult to try and weave through that information. A typical scenario on Zoom is before you go into a Zoom meeting, you have to prep interpreters, you have to get the information to the interpreter so they're prepared. And maybe half an hour before the event, you need to go into the meeting and set up Zoom and check that people are pinned and whether the cameras are right and the lighting's okay. And so there's all that work that goes into a pre-meeting. And then you explain at the start how to work with interpreters and what the best practice is. Particularly if you're meeting for the first time, you're asking people to not talk over each other, and you're asking people to put their hands up and things like that. All that extra work that we go into, we need to make sure we do that. Just to add to that, you know, the automated function that Zoom have where you can put your automated hand up, that's really difficult for deaf people because the person raises their hands using the function, their video moves around the screen and comes at the top, and then we lose the interpreter. So what is a really good functionality on Zoom doesn't work for us. So it's about reminding people, don't put your hand up on the automated button, use it physically rather than on the automated system because it moves the boxes around. Another thing about Zoom, just to mention, sometimes the pre-record, making sure that they pre-record the interpreter as well, and sometimes we have technical issues and they don't record the interpreter, so it's working out in advance who's doing that. It's always us. The university do prefer MS Teams. To be fair, I understand why, but MS Teams isn't deaf user friendly. Zoom is more easier to navigate for several reasons really why we prefer to use Zoom. Just another point on captions, I think people rely on captions, so they'll have a training video and then they'll give a person a transcription. That's not the same experience of watching a video, listening, watching what's happening on, and then I'm having to read a separate document with a transcript on. The additional cognitive processing that's going into that is really difficult, but it's adding the subtitles more ideally onto the video and not using automated captions because, again, like it's already been mentioned, they're not always accurate and they're giving the wrong information. If I want to book a meeting with a colleague at the university, booking a meeting on the same day is really difficult. We don't often have interpreters. So sometimes it takes 2 weeks in advance to book an interpreter, maybe more. So we can't just have the off-the-cuff meeting. We need to make sure we're booking interpreters in advance because of the lack of interpreters. So booking a meeting at short notice can be difficult. For me and for us, the small talk, the lift conversations with hearing colleagues, the water cooler conversations, the kitchen chat doesn't happen for us because we don't have an interpreter with us all the time. So if I'm going to make a coffee in the communal kitchen or I'm in the lift, we often are unable to spark the conversation. There isn't any bridge of communication because the interpreter isn't there. So how do I become more comfortable with my hearing colleagues? Sometimes we might do how's the weather, or we pick up information. Hearing people have the opportunity to pick up incidental information through small talk. We don't have that access. So we always become the last person to know. We don't know, obviously, work-related gossip, but we find it difficult to keep up to date with that because we don't have those opportunities for incidental work talk, or if people talk about career progression or things that we need to know about who's the person to go to for various things. So we're sort of navigating our own paths to try and expose ourselves, to try and generate those relationships, to then gather the information that we need. So it's often a lot of legwork. I completely agree with you, Emma. And we're relying on our hearing allies to do that. They're comfortable with us and they often do bridge the gap. And that's really important. We have hearing allies. So doesn't go back, just going back to the point of we don't just benefit the deaf community. We also have allies. And we want to be more visible. The more visible we are, the more comfortable people get with us. Because sometimes it's quite awkward when somebody's frightened to make the communication or they don't know how to sign. Just basic structure, gesture, really does help. It helps break the ice and then we become more comfortable and that generates relationships. I think people meet a deaf person and I think it's just about bearing in mind that you need to be as visual as possible when you meet a deaf person. Whether it's the way you teach or the materials, it's making it as visual as possible because then we will benefit from that.
Wow, plenty for us to think about there, and some things that maybe we've not appreciated before, so thanks for explaining some of those. Are there any other challenges that you face on a day-to-day basis which you'd like to share with us?
Within the university, sometimes it's difficult if we've got a hearing person coming into the office that don't know that we're deaf, and then they'll go, and then I'll say I'm deaf, and then they'll go, oh, it doesn't matter. I've worked here for donkeys of years and I may be able to answer the question, but I just need them to make a little bit of effort to adjust their communication to ask me the question, and then I'm able to give them their answer. So that's a little bit frustrating when they find out I'm deaf and they just give up. I'm a helpful person and I do like helping people. So if they say no, they don't want me to help them because I'm deaf and they don't want to communicate, I want them to say, oh, it doesn't matter, you're deaf, but this is the question. I would like more of that connection, that relationship with colleagues at the university. Just going back to the small talk opportunities, the opportunities that I miss out on. There's loads of things that happen in the university that I do believe that we do miss out on. We're missing opportunities. And people think it's a small challenge, it's a small difficulty, but it puts us in a disadvantaged position, if I'm being totally honest. There's also, you mentioned about everyday challenges, there's several. Growing up deaf, I think if somebody came deaf overnight, they would realise how difficult it is. But because it's happened to us every day of our lives, we have to make extra effort to navigate work situations. You know, we have to really do put an effort. The university don't provide money for interpreters. We pay for our interpreters through a government budget called Access to Work, and we have to apply, and that doesn't happen quickly, and often we have to really justify why we need the budget to be able to pay for interpreters and other things, and we have to negotiate and argue that with them to try and get the funding. And that's just one element, and it's not even part of my job role, it's an additionality on top of that. So we talk about the being deaf is that extra, that deaf extra, the extra responsibilities we have to do, so to be able to fulfill our employment here at the university, all those little micro things. Access to Work are a government funded grant. They recognise that we need adjustments in the workplace, so there's a pot of money that's available and we can spend it per year. And lots of people don't know about Access to Work, so there are deaf people out there in employment that deal every day with difficulties and challenges and don't have interpreters and lip speakers and note takers. I think there needs to be more information out there so people know there's Access to Work available for adaptations, and also making them more equitable within the environment, because how can you be involved in conversations if you haven't got the support to be able to do that? How are you on par with your hearing colleagues if you've not got that? Access to Work are not just for deaf people, so they provide equal access for disabled people as well. If somebody's got a visual impairment, they may pay for a taxi to and from work, or one place to another within work. So yeah, there's various different funding available to meet their needs, regardless, not just deaf people.
Okay, thank you. So we're now at our final question. So just to finish off, is there anything that you want colleagues and students at the University of Manchester to know or be aware of?
I would like to ask people to think about learning basic British Sign Language. You doesn't have to be an expert, they don't have to go on a training course to learn BSL and to become fully fluent. It could be 5 years of training, and we're not expecting that. We want people to be, if they're working in reception, say hello and good morning in sign language, or if you're in a lift, they say how are you in sign language. Just really small things, those everyday languages, those everyday terms, the engagement, it really does put a smile on my face for the rest of the day if I've met somebody, because I'm being recognised. They're recognising my language and they're recognising me, and I embody sign language. Yes, and how people interact is usually a small thing, and it could lead to something bigger, you know, future collaborations and things like that. So I do agree with Emma, it's the small things, being able to say good morning to somebody in my first language. So those small things can build onto a bigger and brighter future. I think visually. Deaf people are visual beings, so think visually. Also, the university have so many training opportunities, and just making those accessible with captions. And if you do a transcript, please make sure it's in the same place and not separate documents, and you watch a video here and there's a transcript in a different place. So making sure that there's less effort to try and access something and it's all in one place. Also, if anybody's unsure about how they can improve accessibility for deaf people, ask a deaf person, because sometimes hearing people assume without asking. Just ask a deaf person, and they know best. They've got lived experience. Ask them. That's really important. Open communication is really important for deaf and disabled people. If you want to know more, ask. Just don't assume.
Great, thank you very much. I think there's lots there that everybody can learn, and small things that we can do to make sure that our deaf colleagues are included in every day at the University of Manchester. I'd like to thank my colleagues from SWORD today, so Cecilia, Emma and Katie, and also Sam today for interpreting, and letting us know a little bit more about the barriers which our deaf community face at the university. Thank you.